Well, today's conference is Economic Case for Irish Unity. We're here at Titanic Belfast, in the heart of inner East Belfast, in the heart of what once was the shipyard. So that's quite significant in itself. It's a first for the Titanic Quarter, but it's also a first for Sinn Féin that we're bringing our politics, we're bringing our economic arguments, and we're bringing our ideology and our view of the world to a very broad audience made up of economists, made up of people from the business sector, from the community sector, from the culture and arts sectors. I think that's very important. I think it's key, given the other debates that are taking place on similar issues right across Europe, whether it's in Catalonia, whether it's in Scotland. I think we have a strong, historic and relevant case to make in relation to Irish unity and its significance and its importance, and indeed, ultimately, its benefit for all the people of Ireland.
The book I've launched is The Economic Case for United Ireland. I think it's quite important because there's lots of discussion, of course, on this topic. But surprisingly, very little of it is about the economy. Will people be better or worse off with United Ireland? My very strong view is that we'll be better off, and my argument goes through that in a little bit of detail. I think the three most important priorities coming out of the book is that global trade, the international division of labour, to use the jargon, makes you better off. And in the north, they're really quite cut off in terms of trading with the rest of the world because the relationships are all with Britain, and Britain is not a great place to be trading with. Britain's been in a relative economic decline for 100 years. That's the first point. Second point is that there really are important synergies between the southern and northern economies at industry-wide level, at the public and private sector level, and it makes sense. There are big blockages to trade from current arrangements, particularly on currencies and jurisdictions. And thirdly, and this is an important argument, I think, there's an awful lot of nonsense talked about the subvention, and my booklet goes through that a little bit, and the subvention is nothing like the sums people talk about. ONS data, that's the official data from the British government, suggests it's in the order of 700 million a year. It's not very much at all. Well, one of my key arguments actually is addressed to unionists, because I think that they haven't benefited from the arrangements we've had in this state since its foundation. When the state was founded, unionist standards of living, I'm talking about averages, there was obviously poverty, but unionist standards of living were as high as anything in the rest of the United Kingdom as it became, as high as anything in Britain, in the big industrial centres. They're no longer like that, they're about 20% below. In the meanwhile, standards of living south of the border have rocketed, and there's a good reason for that, and that's to come back to this issue of trade. And I think everyone would benefit from a United Ireland economy.
First of all, it's really good to see these sort of events being rolled out. We've had a number of speakers today from a range of backgrounds, and it's good to get those sort of different opinions on the case for United Ireland. The building of the economic case for United Ireland is going to be one of the key arguments in any discussion. The paper laid out by Michael Burke today is very important in putting the figures on any sort of argument that would be there. It's also good to get the unionist perspective, and we had both the columnist Alex Kane and the UUP councillor Mark Cosgrove, and to hear that side of the argument I think is very important. This is, I think, maybe the third of these types of Uniting Ireland conferences that I've been to, and the discussion has built and the argument has developed, and I think it's important that we have more of these, you know, to let that discussion evolve.
Well, I think the two key points are, I think it's important that Sinn Féin is at last beginning to make an economic case for United Ireland, because yes, that is going to underpin any new state. But my concern is that no matter how good the economic case is, or indeed how bad the economic case will be, when it comes to voting, most unionists will vote, even if told that a United Ireland would be better financially, will still vote for the United Kingdom, and most Republicans will still vote for United Ireland, because it's not just about the economics, it's about the identity, it's about who they feel themselves to be. So simply saying to a unionist you would be better off in United Ireland doesn't answer his other questions about his identity, his unionism, his history, his culture, his values, all the other things that matter to him. So if you're going to persuade unionists, you have to persuade them of more than just the cash involvement, because for most people, I know I get knocked for saying this, that the people don't think with their head, they think with their heart, but they do. When it comes down to the big issues of identity, it's the heart that matters.
I think the message I've got, the strong message I've always got, is you need to get this beyond the political arena. It has to go beyond politics. You have to get to people who are not normally engaged with politics. A lot of debate today about what did it mean to say you were Northern Irish. Is that a soft unionist option? I've absolutely no idea, but I do think that's the key demographic. So you've got to build interested communities across Northern Ireland and get them involved and say, what would a united Ireland look like for you? We called it a national conversation in Scotland, and we were asking people, what do you want it to look like? And we're doing it again. We're saying, okay, we didn't win, but what do you want an independent Scotland to look like? And there was so much agreement about the key core principles of how we wanted to live. That's what gave the movement a real energy, and that's what people campaigned on. And it wasn't a nationalist, it wasn't narrow nationalism, it was a much bigger, optimistic, different kind of future, which appealed to younger people, didn't appeal to older people quite so much. We can understand why maybe, but that's what you need to do. And I think if you can do that, and you need thousands upon thousands upon thousands of willing volunteers to man stalls, bang on doors, go out campaigning and canvassing, you have to be visual. You need to, once you get people sitting in bars across Northern Ireland talking about it, you know you're ready for a referendum. And that's what happened in Scotland, and it's still happening in Scotland. The level of political engagement is massive. 87% voted, 95% of people are registered to vote in Scotland. That's an amazing turnout. That's democracy. And that, of course, is what a self-determination movement is about. It's about taking democracy to the people, and it really, really worked. It was so energising. It was fantastic.
I thought this conference was really useful on many different levels. I thought Michael Burke set a very good tone in launching his document, The Economics of Irish Unity, by spelling out what the real costs, the real potential benefits and the real potential in terms of economics of Irish unity. And I think that's very important for us as Republicans to have that as a tool in terms of the debate. In the wider debate, I think the contributions have all been excellent. I think we've heard unionists spell out their own positions. Those positions have been challenged, and we've been challenged as well as Sinn Féin representatives in terms of our own strategies, our own policies. What strikes me as the most important message coming from today, though, is that this can't be left up to politicians or even political parties. The process of Irish reunifications, the entire debate, the entire campaign to achieve a united Ireland has to become a people-centred campaign. It has to be owned by communities as well as by political parties, and that's something that we as the United Ireland Project within Sinn Féin are going to be taking from this. We're going to be learning the lessons, we're going to be listening to what people have been saying in the workshops, and we're going to be taking that to try and shape a very progressive campaign towards Irish unification, something that people can have ownership of, that the new Ireland that we want to create will treat everybody as equals, that will allow everybody to have their own identity, and that will never feel treated as second-class citizens. So that's very important. But on top of that, there needs to also be an understanding that partition has failed. It has failed the border communities, it has failed people north and south, and that it's something that needs to be moved on from, because unless we can actually move towards Irish reunification, then it's my firm belief that this nation can never reach its full potential.